All right. Hi, everybody. Let's see if I'm live. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see if this works. Yes. All right. Hi, everybody. Okay. People are coming in. All right, all right, all right. 10, 12, 15, 20. Okay. Hi. This stream I titled Everybody Wants to Do or Work with Data Warehouses and Not Transactional Databases. Yeah. So let's talk about this. What I brought today is I want to show you a new video I created yesterday. I uploaded that yesterday. A new course that I published this week and some really nice insights because I'm running a lot of polls on LinkedIn. I want to show you a few really interesting polls that I had last week and the past week. Yeah. Let me know if everything works. Say hi in the chat. If you have questions, just fire up the questions. I'm here. Let's dive right into it. So, what I want to start with is this. So I posted a video yesterday I mean. I'm doing architecture reviews and Amazon has a cool YouTube page that's called My Architecture on YouTube, a channel. And in this channel, they are doing architecture reviews, or people are showing what they have, what they're doing on their architecture. And I'm doing React videos on this. So that's pretty fun. I did a few already. If you go to my YouTube channel and search Andreas Kretz or Learn Data Engineering, then on the YouTube channel, I have a playlist with a few, and there are a lot of things coming soon. Hey, Omar. Howdy. Mustafa, hi. What do you think to use dbt versus Glue versus dbt versus Redshift? Let's get to that in a sec. Okay, can somebody on LinkedIn also post a comment? Just to see if everybody's here. Yeah, that's one thing. So check out that video. It's a 20-minute video. I'm not gonna lie. So this is something, but it's pretty fun where I go through basically show every step that they do, and I explain what they're doing and why they're doing it. It's pretty interesting. Hi. Yeah, that's something. Another thing I did this week, I created another course, and I put this live on my website, in my academy. I forgot to bring it up. On learndataengineering.com. I have that in my academy. When you go here, learn about the full curriculum. Let's quickly look into it. Here, Apache Airflow workflow orchestration. Complete course. I wanted to give people a fundamentals course on how, basically, what's Airflow, how's it used, functional concepts, architecture. I think Airflow is a really nice tool and very important tool right now. So I'm showing basically the basic stacks, tasks, operators, sensors. I'm talking about how this is used in production. For instance, on GCP here, the user interface. We go over that and run DAX. The project setup that we're doing, where we're working with the Weather API. So that's something that we're doing. The code, here's a look at the Weather API. I'm using the weatherapi.com. It's a very nice API to play around with. I highly recommend this to use. And then here our Postgres database, where our data is going to go. Do you have any plans on writing a book in the future? I was thinking about this. But I'm not going to write a complete book. There are a lot of books out there, but what I'm going to do, I have my data engineering cookbook. I'm going to revise the cookbook because the cookbook is a bit old. So I think the last revision was 2 years ago. A lot has happened since then, and I have learned a lot since then, and people have went some different routes. So on my website here, actually on learndataengineering.com, you can go down, and here I have a link to the cookbook on the GitHub, where you can go in here, and that's what we're going to revise. I'm going to do this in live streams where we talk about what we're going to skip here and what's going to come new. That's what I'm currently thinking of doing a bit in the live streams, where we can figure out what to do. That's yeah. So multi-cloud strategy is best for many clients now. Redshift for BI, tools like Power BI and BigQuery for SQL clients. Okay, Mustafa, that was part towards your first question here. Okay, let me get to that in a sec. So that's something I'm currently working on. I posted the Airflow course. I think Airflow is a very important topic for ETL, and also for streaming, but for managing jobs, managing processes on all different platforms. That it's a big tool. So Airflow is something I think you have to know as a data engineer right now. That's also going to go in the cookbook, like I mentioned, a bit more about these tools. That's something very important. Yeah, these two things. Let's quickly, before we go into the polls, I have prepared a few polls. Let's quickly talk about what Mustafa asked here. Can you talk more about Redshift serverless versus BigQuery serverless versus Snowflake? So generally, I'm not the big data warehousing or analytics databases guy. I'm coming from streaming data. I'm coming from the IoT world. That's where I feel very comfortable. But what I see is these data warehouses that you build on top of these tools like Redshift, like BigQuery, like Snowflake. These are getting more and more important, because where are people? People are not working on the transactional side of a database. People work a lot on the analytical side, on the part where you have ETL processes and you have warehouses and you have BI tools, like Mustafa mentioned here in the next post. So Redshift serverless. Redshift, the only way of Redshift serverless is with Spectrum. That's something that, no, Redshift Spectrum is actually not serverless. Redshift, what's the serverless on AWS? I used it in one of my courses. It was something Athena. Athena is the serverless version of Redshift. It's a bit. It's not really a data warehouse on top of it, but you can query data. Yeah, it's Athena, but you can query data from files and work with that. It's a good way. And Redshift Spectrum is actually when you have servers and you use Spectrum to query data, not from data within Redshift, but from files laying, for instance, in S3. That's where you have Redshift Spectrum. So that's about Redshift. I worked with Redshift a bit. BigQuery is a lot easier to work with compared to Redshift. So Redshift you have to set up, you have to use a cluster and so on, configure a cluster, set everything up, set the permissions and so on and so on. A learning curve on BigQuery is a lot flatter. It's you can make very quickly advances on this. I got in contact the first time with BigQuery when I did my course about modern data warehouses and data lakes. And I really like it. With Snowflake, I don't have experience with Snowflake. I need to look into Snowflake. Snowflake is going to come soon. I have a course planned on this, so I need to get into it more. But for now, I can't give so much so much tips on Snowflake. I know it's very popular. So, but I think BigQuery and Snowflake are the most popular ones right now. And then, of course, you would connect here then BI tools for this, right? You would say, okay, I have my BigQuery, I use Data Studio on it, or I use another BI tool. But we're already here. So that was the interesting part. I was thinking of, okay, what's interesting for people actually to learn? Okay, where should they start? What should they start with? And I asked on LinkedIn, which advanced data store would you recommend data engineering students? NoSQL databases, basically a transactional database like MongoDB or whatever, Cassandra, Redis, or that kind of stuff, or a data warehouse, an analytical store. And I was blown away when I saw this. It's 604 votes, so it's already a lot of votes. I was blown away by this when I saw, okay, 80% of people actually say, okay, you start and you look into warehouses first and then look into transactional databases. That was very interesting for me because, as I said before, I was coming from the other side, actually. Sorry. So that was very interesting. BigQuery is multi-cloud service. Yeah, well, I'm not sure. I think you can access S3 files and so on with BigQuery. I haven't tried this actually, but I'm guessing you can do that when you say multi-cloud. That's what it's meant. It's not. It's BigQuery runs only on GCP, right? Yeah. So that was very interesting. I found that very interesting. That's why I want to push the warehousing part also for my academy, so that I get more into this topic and I can teach people this more because it's perceived. It's not. This doesn't mean that the warehouse is super more used than transactional databases, but it's perceived as the one that is needed more, right? And that's most likely because when you look at the state of data science right now, or also engineering and what people are doing with the data, most of the time they are in this lower part here, the warehousing part, the analytical part, okay, I'm getting all the data from my live systems, from my transaction systems, and I'm putting that data in a warehouse or in an analytical data store, and then analyze it to understand how's my business doing, where can I improve. So that's something, that really blew me away. Are you planning on bringing GCP capstone projects to the academy anytime soon? So the goal in the academy, yes, I want to do that, Umar. One thing, what's coming soon. Let me get to the academy side. So what's coming next here is the next part is going to be a Databricks fundamentals course. We already finished the coding, almost finished the coding for this. This is going to be an introduction course so that you feel comfortable going into Databricks and working with Databricks, because Databricks is also one of these tools out there that are very, very popular and important because they are so cloud independent. Right? With Databricks, you can work with data or combine data from GCP, from Azure, from AWS with each other. Yeah. Then we're going to do a DBT course, and after that, a Snowflake course, and then that ML Ops course that I keep putting off. I want to have that early this year, but I keep pushing it down the road. So that's my focus right now. Databricks for processing, then DBT for transforming the data for data wrangling, for ELT processes and so on. That's something that I'm looking for right now. and then Snowflake. Hey Cherry, it's my academy, my website, learndataengineering.com. We're currently there because I was asked about if there's a GCP course coming. I had that multi-cloud. If you're building a real-time dashboard, how would you set this up? E.g. live data, Kinesis, Kafka, S3, Postgres? No, most likely not. Let's go to the board. So in this, the main goal is always the same. So you have your data coming in. Ooh, that's big. Let's go further down. Let's do a quick excursion here. So this is your data coming in. Data stream. Right? Now you want to build a real-time dashboard. What are you going to do? You're going to put this into a store, into a most likely a transactional store. Could be NoSQL. Based on the data that you use, this could be, for instance, a time series database. Right? If you have monitoring data, if you have some kind of a statistics data. So you would say, okay, you have your data stream or data that comes in, either a message queue, either you feed it directly into a message queue. If this originates within your network, or what you can do is you package an API before that. Most likely you would have an API before here, right? So you have an external data stream, goes through the API into the message queue. Message queue, then you have some sort of processing here in between. I forgot that. Let's put Spark in here. Spark streaming. So this would go from here, would go into your transactional data store. And then here you would have your real-time dashboard. That's the upper part that we had here. That's this part with the transactional part, right? There's stream coming in, it goes into the message queue. Spark streaming is taking it, putting it up here, and your dashboard is actually then using the data. Now for analytics, this is terrible. You would not want to use this for analytics because in analytics you need to access the data or access more data at the same time. Here dashboards are usually querying only a piece of data. So you need some kind of another data store here, and this is where the analytical data store is coming in. This would be your data warehouse. Now you could say, okay, I'm streaming this then here directly into the warehouse. And here's sitting for instance, my BI tools. And these then access the data from here. Or you could say, let's make this a dotted line. You could say, okay, here we have our Spark, like an ETL job. Oops. And this job once a day gets the data out of here and writes it here. Or let's make this a logical. So this ETL job once a day writes the data in here. That's something that is important. So you have these two parts. The upper part with live dashboards that are more towards the transactional levels, the individual data points that are coming in, or you have a warehouse or an analytical database. Let's make here analytical database where you're going to analyze the data or have the business intelligence people working on it. That's where this comes in. That's how I would set this up. Yeah, that basically, Chongzi, that's what you've been asking here. That would be a real-time data warehouse where the data is coming in and gets put. This, of course, Spark streaming here, you could exchange with whatever, right? So that's exchangeable. I wrote here message queue because I want the message queue to be general and just to give you an idea. Okay, this is but this is literally always the same thing. It's always the same thing. And that's also what I'm talking about when I talk about my the platform blueprint that you find in the cookbook I've talked before, right? You have these layers, these areas. You have your ingestion or integration area. Then you have something like a message queue. Then you have your processing here in the middle. And your data, well, let's make it like this. Make it like this. No. Then you have your, I think you get the point. Then you have your stores on both sides here, and on the right side you have your visualization tools. Thanks. It's literally that easy, and it's always the same. Of course, the details are different, but yeah. Let me see, what questions do we have here? Is S3 good for BI tools like QuickSight or Power BI? The thing is, so you want to have the data in a way where, let me put this differently. So when you say, I'm putting my data here in S3, right? This is S3. And I have my files here. Is there a file symbol? Yeah, here are my files. Right. And then you have your BI tool. Let's say you have Power BI or whatever. So when you access these S3 files, one thing you want to work with these files, one thing you need to do, you need to actually get these files, right? You need to load these files into your Power BI and work with them. And that's what you need to. That's what you don't want to do. You want something like what we've discussed before. You want something usually like BigQuery, like Snowflake, like whatever, like BigQuery, like Snowflake, like Databricks. I think you get the point. You want this here. You want to contact here. Oops. You want to get directly to BigQuery and access this like this. Why would you do this? Because these then access the files. But you're not loading the file. What you have here, do we have a table symbol? Yeah, these will give you, no. Here, like a general Azure table, doesn't matter. Like these would give you here the table view on this, and would then make it so you don't need to download the whole thing, but actually BigQuery, Snowflake, or Databricks would do the heavy lifting for your queries in Power BI. So that's how you would do this. You would not, most likely would not want to load gigabyte large files from S3 and process them in Power BI. It's not a good practice. Yeah, let's quickly continue before we go too deep. I want to get a bit more into this, and then I go further into the questions. So again, if you have questions, put them in the chat. I don't know how much time I have. I think I have a half an hour more. So what generates better learning results? That was also something that I was asking because of my academy and because of my experience. I wanted to ask you, how do people actually experience this, right? Formal education through the university, YouTube, online courses, figuring out stuff for yourself, read the fucking manual, right? I've found it very interesting that universities here are actually last. And this shows, for me, and from my university experience, university laid the foundation for the computer science and laid the foundation for my later learnings. But universities are usually very slow in getting into new topics and advancing or getting into new topics or teaching new topics. It's not like a YouTube or an online course where they are, I know for myself, my own YouTube videos, my own courses, you generate all the time something new. And this is very, very quick and you get it very condensed, the knowledge. Although, and that's what I find very interesting, this was only 32%. Most people said the best learning results are from figuring it out yourself. Reading the manual and generating source code and trying it out. And I could not agree more. I think it's a combination of this. You need some kind of formal education. It's very, very hard to teach everything for yourself. You can do it, but it's very difficult. If you have some sort of fundamental formal education, boom. And then you can go up and you can look at other stuff. Like if I want to have, let's say, this is how I do it. If I have a new topic, I want to look into, like when I said I'm going to do a Snowflake course. So what am I going to do with Snowflake? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look into the documentation of Snowflake. How does that work? If there are some details and I can find them immediately, I'm going to search on YouTube if somebody has made a tutorial on this. I'm creating courses for myself, so I'm not into other online courses, but like as somebody who needs the information, you do an online course. I have also done online courses before while I was working at companies. Maybe it's a good idea for me also to do a Snowflake course before I create my own and basically advance this. I don't know. The idea here is get information quick and then execute. Try it out yourself. This is where you learn the most. Trying it out yourself, getting yourself an AWS subscription, using the free tier, setting stuff up, struggling through it. Of course, the best thing is if you combine these two courses, online, YouTube, and figuring out yourself. But that's where you generate, in my opinion, the most. How would you deal with stakeholders that want data reports fast, which means ditching proper data engineering efforts, testing, quality checks, the version control? It's always like these things are always difficult. Okay, so the question here comes down to, can you even access that data? And what's the expectation from the person? I have absolutely no problem with somebody's coming in and needs something fast because it's very important. Of course, always very important, but it's very important. And you say, okay, I have that data laying around here and I would more go through the proper channels, but you need through proper development. But if you need it fast and you can live with certain amount of errors or usability downsides, I set something up for you quickly. Of course, this is a very dangerous road to take, but I think it's okay. as long as the other person understands this is a alpha version or a beta version, this is just for testing, this is not for production, it's okay. You can set something up. Yeah, I had back in the days, I had stuff that I said, no, we're not going to do. We're not going to do that, because I knew the people, and I knew that you can create something and you tell them this is not for production use, this is just because you need it fast, and they completely ignore this, and once it's out, and everybody's using it and everybody's complaining, and then you have that problem of maintainability and so on. So it's dangerous. If you're talking with the right person, you can figure it out, you can work that out. It's not a big deal. So be a bit cautious of who you're talking to and how this person actually deals with that kind of stuff. Can you please explain more about what is production projects in data engineering? Mustafa, look at the YouTube I was telling you. Look at here, let me bring it up. Here. So what I have done here, I have a few videos, data platform architecture reviews. This will help you get an idea of what are people doing and how could you replicate something like this. I have a few examples in my academy with projects. You can also look at these. Like here, I have here example projects. You could just check out what I've done there and replicate this if you don't want or can't join the academy. But that's something. And also look at this data platform architecture reviews playlist on my YouTube channel. And if you want to go quickly and learn more, use the AWS, how is it called? AWS My Architecture channel. It's very, very interesting. So this is how I would look into production projects. What are people doing? How can you replicate this? PySpark I have in my academy. I have a Spark course with Spark, the normal Spark for ETL with PySpark, and Spark streaming with PySpark. So that's how I would start. Of course, I'm going to recommend my stuff first, right? And Python, I also have Python tutorials. It depends on your Python level. So if you're a complete beginner with Python, I recommend look into a Udemy course or something. Python beginners course. It's that's how I would start. And then for the more advanced stuff, Python for data engineers and so on, check out the stuff I do in my academy. No, let's continue. So that was one thing. The other thing is stream process. I don't want to show the next one already. Is stream processing more expensive than batch processing? That was something in my last roundtable that I joined. I don't know if you have seen that. It's on the Rocksec channel. Check that out, because we were talking about stream processing and how this, some people they were talking about how this is expensive and a lot more expensive than batch processing. Yes and no. It always depends on how you set this up. So here 80% say it's more expensive. Of course, it's more expensive than if you run an ETL job once a day, or if you constantly have a pipeline running where the data is flowing through. But is it super expensive? I don't think so. It gets super expensive when you write a big amount of data into it. But for normal use, you can set up streaming pipelines fairly simple, fairly cheap. The thing is always, is it too expensive for your use case? And that's where, who asked here? Can you explain more? What is, Mustafa, can you explain good projects? Like this is something for projects. Do you need to have real-time access to data, to dashboards, real-time dashboarding? Then you have to do something with streaming. Then you don't care if it's a bit more expensive or more expensive than ETL, because it's what you need. Is it too expensive if you just need to have data once a day updated? Of course, then it's going to be more expensive or even too expensive for you. You should do a simple ETL job. So that's what you need to look into. Should everyone in the data team know how to correctly model data in the warehouse using Kimball, for example? So I can, no, not everybody. So how is this very often done? You have when you look at the jobs, so I'm coming from the engineering side, right? The engineering is going to, let me bring up that chart that I just showed here, or that graphic here, this one. So the engineering is going to take care of everything here on the left here, right? Everything, data, how the data coming in, API, message queue, Spark streaming, and so on. Where the data modeling for the warehouse is happening, where the Kimball and how's the other Inman is happening, is here in the warehouse, is here for analytical purposes. Very often what the engineering is doing, they have here staging tables and they drop the data into staging tables, and then from the staging table you actually then, somebody from who's engineering the analytics or working on the analytics part is going to bring it into the warehouse, into the warehouse tables, into the warehouse structure that somebody has designed. So I don't think that much, it's good to know. I'm not an expert in it, as I said. I also don't think everybody on the team needs to know that. So if you have someone who can manage that, who understands it, who can, for instance, tell the engineer, I need that kind of data in that form in these tables, you're gonna be golden. So that's that. Where was I? That was that. Is stream data data processing more expensive? Another thing for the Spark users, as I said, next thing I'm going to do is Databricks, and I used Spark also for a long time. I really like this one here, where people were saying, "Did you enjoy working with Spark?" Hell yeah, I like it. That's 55%. That's awesome. So Spark is there. I love to see that Spark has gotten to that point where it's used in production and it's not that gimmick anymore, right? That's really cool. I like that a lot. So 30% say they use other tools, and that's a good way of saying this, right? Use Spark. When you use it, you enjoy it. Or a lot of people like or use other tools. I mixed in show results in this as well. Why did I do that? Because Spark is not the tool for everything. And as we talked before, you have your Lambda functions, or you have Flink. Somebody mentioned Flink, and so on. These tools are good for different purposes. A Lambda function, if you just need a simple Lambda function, then why not use a simple Lambda function? It's absolutely fine. You don't need Spark for this, right? So that was something very interesting. Clean code is also something that I'm very interested in, because mostly I'm terrible at it. I have to say, I'm very often terrible at writing clean code. What I'm trying to do is, of course, here, keep it simple, stupid. That's KISS is very, very important. You don't want to write very, very complex code where you have to untangle stuff and then go 10 layers deep and 10 layers up again to understand what's happening. You want to do something very simple. You want to keep it modular. You want to do it easy. For me personally, the most important part is here, the 20% part. The tractors are outside again. You want to explain your code, yourself in the code. You want to explain your code while doing the coding. That's something that is very important for me. So that's why I also do in my courses, when I supply you with the source codes, when I was working and I was creating code where my colleagues were working with it, always have these comment blocks, inline comments, where you write that function. Of course, you can use your descriptive names, but just write even if it's a one-liner, this function does that, you give it this and this comes out. It's very easy. You just have to go do it, and this is what helps a lot, because the other 20% here with choose descriptive names, it's important, but I'm notoriously terrible at it. So this is something I'm struggling with all the time. It's, oh my God. You should have seen what I'm doing sometimes. It's quite funny. It's slapstick, pure slapstick sometimes. Yeah, so clean code. Please do me a favor. Look at that. Look into that. Help your colleagues make changes easier. Make understanding your code easier. Keep it simple. Use descriptive names if you can, and just comment, just here and there, add a sprinkle of inline comments where you explain what this does. It's not super hard. What's the other thing? The databases we had. This is something that I got in touch through Spark and through playing with Python, Jupyter notebooks. What's your opinion on Jupyter notebooks? People seem to love it. I don't know what's your opinion, but post in the chat what's your opinion on this. A lot of people say these are awesome, good but not for production. That's also something I see very often. Although in Spark and in Databricks, you can do it. So it's helpful there. Just a few people say they don't like notebooks and never used one. Only 4% of people have, out of 500, never used a notebook. I think that says something for itself, that so many people had at least once used a Jupyter notebook. Raul, I don't think Databricks is notebooks only. Isn't there a way how you can use Python codes, for instance, in there? I don't think that's actually true. Yeah. Sometimes it's terrible to convert Jupyter code to production, and that's why a lot of people here say good but not for production. Yeah, here Matthias says you can run Spark code without notebooks. Yeah, of course. So that's what Vadim here is alluding to, because very often when I was working with Spark, I never used notebooks. I was writing back in Scala and with Python source codes. And if you do something with a notebook, you then have to translate this into the actual just raw source code, and that can be annoying. So that's also why a lot of people say you're good but not for production. Most likely it's terrible to or annoying to convert. I also feel like notebooks are especially good for exploring data and doing simple stuff, but not for real production use. Yeah, so that's very interesting. I found that very interesting, and I like that so many people actually, I think they are awesome and good, but not for production. That applies here. That implies here that 50, 60, 70, that 80%, over 80% are actually liking Jupyter notebooks, and that's great. I mean, why wouldn't you like them? If you want to explore data, then just go step by step in your Jupyter notebook, put in some graphs or some tables, and explore the data while you're going through it. It's great. I also use Jupyter notebooks in my Spark courses. Why not? Especially for learners, it's a great way of learning, for instance, Spark. Yeah, do I have something? Also for people who start coding with notebooks later will hard to code maintainable and readable code. Yeah, unfortunately, that's sometimes the case. Now, the other problem is, you can look at this also from the other direction. It's an easier learning curve than directly going into code. Deploying your code to the cluster, have it fail and be for 2 days in a row, everything fails, and be miserable about it and trying to sift through logs or just put it in a notebook and then later struggle through. It's always a trade-off. To set something quickly up, explore something, notebooks are great. Maintainable code that you would put on GitHub and so on, most likely not a notebook. Yeah, very good, quick feedback. A lot of ways to make usage of good software engineering practices to notebooks. That's also actually something true when you think of it, and that comes back to our clean code question before. You can make notebooks so that you understand notebooks and that they're maintainable nicely. No, they're nicely maintainable. I think it's the right English. If you write clean code, if you actually try to use good software engineering. Okay, what do we have? Docker or virtual machines? That's actually something. Notebooks are useful, but really shit for. So what's better, Docker or virtual machines? I found that interesting. I posted this just today. Just for fun. I wanted to see, okay, what are people actually saying here? Virtual machines are not terrible. And when you think of it, if you launch a EC2 instance on AWS, you're hosting basically a virtual machine, right? And it's not super terrible. It's just, I think people are coming here from the point of view of, okay, how easy it is to deploy this, to replicate what you have, to build an image and then deploy the container, have always the same thing on all the machines that you're running it. It's a big plus. But for certain use cases, virtual machines are still a good thing, especially in the cloud environment. For development, I agree. I would look into Docker, and Docker is better there a lot. They have a different use case. So when I started out, there wasn't really Docker. And if you wanted to have a test environment or a virtual environment where you could test something, you would set up a bunch of virtual machines and install your stuff in the virtual machines. But people have moved away from this. That's why there are comments under this like, what's better, a bicycle or a car? Or what's better, a screwdriver or a hammer? Right? So because these things are used for different purposes. But I'm not always doing these polls to compare this. You can use either or, but it's more like to get a feel of, okay, what are people thinking? What's in people's heads? What's the tendencies? That's why I put this, very often put this on the board. I had another poll. I don't remember. Do I have this on here? I think that's the last one here. I had another poll this week or last week where it wasn't really a one-to-one comparison, and people were freaking out like, oh, this is comparing oranges to apples, because they didn't understand that wasn't my intention for this. My intention for these many polls I'm doing on LinkedIn is to understand where's the community heading, where are people thinking at, how do they compare certain stuff with each other. All right. Use Docker in VM. There's a special place in hell for you. So that I just asked you. Sometimes I want to see, okay, do people have understand the fundamentals? What does the container image registry manage? Image configs, container configs, image repositories, container repositories. Of course, it's image repositories. Like you create your images and you push them to your repositories, so you can then later get them and create Docker containers out of your images. That's the goal. But as you see, there's only 50% say the right thing. There was actually one poll that was very funny to me. Let me see if I can get this poll. Let me see if I can get this. I need to hide my screen for this, because I made a poll on LinkedIn about GDPR and what's personal data, and that was very funny to me. A lot of people got this actually wrong. Can I put this up here? Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. Post a comment here for questions while I'm searching this. That was very fun. GDPR can be really tricky, and let me see if I can find this quickly. Use Docker in a virtual machine. That's nice. I think I can't find it quickly. Ah, shit. Event bridge. I do a lot of polls here, I see. By the way, did you see my memes that I posted a month ago? Or 1.5 months ago. I posted for 4 weeks or something. I posted memes. How did you like these memes here? These things. I was told, whoop, where did it go? It's gone away. Like these with Arnie. Remember when I said I'd give you a data engineer? I lied. I found this very funny. Roll back. Lake house stuff. I don't find it. Oh man. It was here. Here is it. Here is it. Oh no. Come on, Chrome, be nice. Here, which data is not personal data? The IP address, hello@company.com, first name dot last name at company.com. So can I scroll easily scroll this up, zoom this in? So interestingly enough, people were saying the IP address. It's actually not the IP address. The IP address is considered in a lot of cases personal data. So under GDPR, IP addresses are very sensitive. That's why also this is sometimes very annoying for Google Analytics, because in Google Analytics, and also if you log IP addresses in some kind of monitoring in your application, you can't log them as they are. You need to anonymize them and cut off the last few digits or stuff. And I won't click here on 794 votes, because then you see who voted what. A lot of like data protection officers and so on. They clicked here on IP addresses. I was showing this my wife, and I said, hey, look at these people. They need some serious education, and they're like data protection officer, data security professional, and like I was like laughing my ass off. That was very, very funny. Okay, so much for that. IP address is personal data. Hello@company not. So that if you post something, hello to my hello@learndataengineering.com, this is not personal data, and you're good. So yeah, keep that in mind. First name, last name, of course, this is personal data. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for being here. A lot of great questions. Let me know what you think about some of these things. If you just post questions here if you want. I can get to them afterwards. Yeah. If you're interested in learning data engineering, I highly recommend you this platform, learndataengineering.com. Which I'm completely affiliated with, and this is my livelihood. I'm doing this full time, creating stuff every day. Yeah, check it out. Check out the new Airflow course. It's I love helping people understanding the simple stuff, getting in, or let me rephrase this, getting simply into these complex stuff like Spark, like Airflow, like databases and so on. Yeah, always good vibes. I hope you have a great day. My day is already finished. It's 5:30 p.m. for me. I'm going to wrap this up here, land the plane, and then in an hour we're going to the beer garden, and I'm going to have a steak or something. So have a great day. See you next time. Tomorrow I'm going to record a new YouTube video. I'm not sure if I'm going to post it tomorrow, because Fridays is always but there's another one of these architecture review videos coming. If you're interested in that, check out these. They're a bit more serious usually than these live streams. But yeah, have a great day. Bye everybody.